So good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer. I am the FI Program Director. I'm joined today by Linda Schellenberg, Senior Director of All Community Services. And today we will be talking about just the transition, learning a little bit about CFS, of course, and the transition process if you and your loved one is transferring from another FI provider or simply just starting in startup self-direction with us. Next slide, Linda. Okay, so we'll be touching briefly and we will, with the recorded presentation, be providing you some of the outlines and templates of what I will review today. We're going to touch lightly on self-hire employee clearances. So if you have any, if you are a family that's transferring from another provider to us, we will, discuss the importance of self-hire employee clearances before that transition to us. We will be talking about time frames and whatnot. We will also be talking about just an overview of the launch meeting for those of you that are already, part of the self-direction program. You've probably been exposed to what that is. Here at CFS, we will be sure to do a launch again if you are a transferring case. We will also be reviewing with you our CFS website, our CFS self-direction services page specifically, our different types of forms, the way we do business here and whatnot. Okay. Okay, we can continue to the next slide. So our philosophy here is, we here at CFS are very, we're very much a personalized, person-centered agency, right? In all of that's our philosophy in all of the services, traditional or not, that we offer. So we strive to support individuals to live the lives that they want, of course, respecting diversity, individual choice, and family needs, providing the families with the support they need at the different stages of life, even in the FI realm. I know that in the FI realm, we are a little bit more behind the scenes, but we operate very much with that person-centered approach. And we support, of course, our team, brokers, families, individuals with that same approach. We, of course, try to involve ourselves with the individuals and their communities to deliver excellent and individualized support to all. And that's overall our mission here, to utilize all these OPWDD opportunities to help the individuals and their families, loved ones, their circle in a truly person-centered way. Okay, next slide. Was there a question? I'm sorry. Okay, so our team here is, again, Linda, who is our overall senior director of all of the community services, myself. We also have wonderful FI managers with varied background and experiences. Some come from the care management side and have a great level of expertise there. We have other individuals that have already worked in the self-direction realm, be it as brokers, FI managers, or coordinators. So as of now, we have about 6 FI managers and we continue to grow. And beside the FI manager team, of course, we have a program assistants. A couple of them oversee the onboarding and clearance process of staff. We also have Suhana, who is our program assistant person specifically supporting employees as it relates to all matters for their apps and clocking in, out, and capturing sessions. So we have those team members as well. Behind all these faces, we also have our HR team, our payroll, finance, administrative teams, very much working all together. Okay, so this here for the new intakes. So this is for families that are either in the transferring again to us from another fiscal intermediary or are in the startup or initial budget process. So, and again, I bolded here, it's important to note that based on the trends, a lot of the things, I'll review may vary and they may vary because, the DDRO offices themselves sometimes, kind of modify or revise what they do, what they ask for. Their timeframes, I know that right now there's a little bit of a delay, 6 to 7 weeks in reviewing budgets and things of that nature. So we, of course, here at CFS strongly recommend that self-hire employees or other applicable members. So if you already have, or your loved one has an existing budget with live-in caregiver, paid neighbor, or just self-hired staff that require background clearances and checks, we strongly recommend that you connect with your broker to get those clearances requests first. And then of course, following that, you can work with your broker to ensure that everything we request is submitted to us at the same time. But we strongly push for the clearances of employees because, oftentimes we do see that a budget may be approved effective, just making updates August 1st with us, but the employee is not fully onboarded. So we're approved to provide the services, but the employee is not cleared to work. Okay, and that brings me to the clearance process flow chart.
Okay, let me just stop sharing and pull that up. Hold on. Okay, and we just put people on mute again, just to prevent any background noise. But if you have questions, feel free to use the chat, raise your hand, we'll unmute you. Let me find where I put this. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, here it is. Okay, so we know that, and again, this is for those of you who are looking to transfer to CFS, you have self-hired staff, you might be familiar with the requirements for staff onboarding. For those of you who are going to be joining us and you're just starting out, this might be something that while you're in the startup phase can be worked on if you do find employees. During the startup phase, this is something you can get started so that once the budget is launched, you can, move right in. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so the first step is we do want the brokers to complete a form that will identify some basic demographic information on the new hire that you've identified. So if you find somebody that you like to hire, we are requesting some basic information on them so that we can communicate the process with them. We have our FI team review that just to make sure that the budget is in sync with what you're requesting. So if you're hiring a full-time person, that they're at the rate and the hours per week and the fringe rate, that it's all in the budget that's been approved, or that it's been, if you're in startup and planning, that it's something that you've identified in the budget that will be submitted. So we have our team here send out a welcome email to the applicant, and they include all the stakeholders. So our team will email the applicant, will email you as the parent, the individual, the broker, the FI team. So everybody is aware each step along the way. We use a platform called Adobe Sign, which makes life a lot easier for people because they can just electronically fill out the application forms. There's a bunch of forms that are required for the OPWDD clearance. If you are transferring, unfortunately, the employee does have to go through this entire process again. Even if they've been fingerprinted with another provider, they do still need to be fingerprinted. Again, that's just the way the state manages this system. So they'll fill out those forms. They'll receive a daily reminder each day until they do complete the forms, so that really you can just keep checking in with that potential employee to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. Sometimes we see delays because the potential employee is not responding. We then schedule them for fingerprints based on what they indicated as far as their availability is. Once the applicant attends those appointments, once the applicant attends the appointment and we get those results back, we then move on to the next phase. In the next phase, again, you will be included in the email that will initiate a self-onboarding through Paycom. We use Paycom currently as our payroll vendor, and that's the system where the employee will be filling out their W-2, their I-9. They'll be having to upload references. The New York State OPWDD requires that we as the employer have 1 professional and 2 personal references. We always recommend that families discuss this with employees when you're offering them the job, because what we find is the best thing to do is have the employee get those written references, and then we can just verify them. Okay, so the employee will be responsible to set themselves up in Paycom and submit all of the appropriate IDs based on that I-9 document. So the I-9 form is showing that they're able to legally work here, and there's specific documents that they can submit. And again, they'll be provided with that list of documents. They could work with our staff if they have questions on that. They will be hired. This is not an off the books job. They have to go through this process. And the more responsive the potential hire is, the quicker the process moves along. We also have to use something called E-Verify, which verifies the applicant's I-9 information with the federal government that they are able to work in the United States. And once that applicant completes the self-onboarding, the very last step is that they are sent a system email that allows them to start their new employee orientation. It's an online orientation. It takes between 3 to 4 hours to complete. They will receive, once hired, they will receive a stipend for completion of this. And once they complete that orientation, we get notified through the system, and that's when we can initiate an email that the employee can start to work. Now, as Jennifer mentioned, since you guys are looking to either transfer or get started with us, if you have potential employees, once they've completed the process, we need to just make sure that there is an approved budget that's, ready to go. So it's always good, as Jennifer mentioned, to have that employee up and ready. And so that as soon as the budget has been approved, that, you can go ahead and get them started. Okay, so we did try to streamline this process as much as possible, but most of the steps in here are required based on OPWDD guidance. There is one additional requirement that we have. It's for pre-employment medical. And that is based on a requirement of our workers' compensation insurance carrier. So this might not be something that you're used to if you've been receiving the service from another agency, but we do require pre-employment medical. We have a contract with CityMD, which is all over the place. An employee can go to the CityMD to get a medical. We will pay for it. Or if they prefer, they can get something from their doctor that simply indicates they're free and clear to work. So that's the new hire process. And again, if a new hire is really on the board, on the ball, this could be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. The best thing that we can recommend to individuals and families is to make sure that employee is being responsive to the emails and to the steps that they need to take to get hired. Okay, let me stop sharing here.
Thanks, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And just to quickly add to that, I would encourage the same if you are a family that's enrolling in self-direction for the first time, even in startup phase. It's always good that once you're working with your broker on that initial budget process, if you've identified candidates, to also get them onboarded. There is a little more pressure though on those transfer budgets, as we call it, that already have self-hired employees, because it's not exactly a seamless process. So we want to ensure that they are cleared at least while that transfer budget is under review. Now, Linda, there's a good question here about the, if this is a transfer budget, I'm assuming, can the current staff if you're working with the family, can that same family provide that professional reference?
Not a professional, but definitely a personal. The professional reference would be maybe from the fiscal intermediary, and that could be as simple as an employment verification. So most employers do not provide references. You think of a reference. But they would indicate the name of the position that the employee worked, their dates of hire, and that they were in fact employed by that company. So that would qualify as a professional reference, but certainly the individual and family can provide a personal reference, which would be a character reference that they can write. And we would accept emails. We try to be very flexible. We just want something, from that person, either signed or from their email address that we can then verify after the fact. And I'll pop in that new hire workflow into the chat, because I think some families find that to be helpful when they're sitting down with somebody that they're looking to hire, so that they understand the steps that they need to go through.
Thanks. And going back to that workflow and employees, another common trend, if this helps, is, sometimes, and I know that it's so many moving parts, so understandably so, some things fall between the cracks, but with transfer budgets, we find that, the employees are often the last ones to know. Or maybe don't know, it's, again, a lot of moving parts, of brokers transitioning to helping you transition to another provider. And in between that, the employee is a little lost as to what's happening. Or of course, they may find that our practices here are similar, but still different. So we very much encourage that, for those families that are transferring, that make the decision to transfer to us, that you share with them as soon as possible that they'll just overall go through this process of clearance and fingerprinting and stuff like that again. And that, to very much be diligent in their emails. As you will see, most of what we do is literally almost 100%, dare I say, electronic. Okay, so now I'm gonna transition into just the whole intake process. So new intakes. So while the clearance process is in effect, and again, this starts with your support broker, right? So if you tell your support broker, I want to move forward with CFS FI, they wouldn't then, usually our brokers, we don't really have any new brokers, but of course we would consider making the exception to accommodate your choice. But for those brokers that are not newer brokers, they already know that they would submit what we call the employee clearance request form, indicating everything related to hours and pay rates. We will verify that it matches what's in the budget. If it doesn't match what's in the budget, it's okay. There is a notes section in there that may say, hey, we are using this opportunity to change things up, amending the budget to add or decrease hours or whatever it is. So that part is fine. So once that part is initiated by the broker would also be the one to submit a complete intake packet to us via email. So the way we do it here is brokers are provided a direct FI manager, and they would know to submit that full packet for review to their FI manager. So that packet consists of things of like a current life plan, level of care, DDP2, a notice of decisions, and all of those initial documents, the termination form if you're terminating from another FI provider, support broker agreement. So they have the list, but if they don't, of course, we're going to share it, and we'll be sharing it with another session we'll hold in a little while. So that's our review process here. As long as we have all of the current and accurate documentation, our turnaround time is 1 to 2 weeks. I'm confident in saying that we move quicker than that. So long as everything is in there, we go ahead and submit that to the DDRO. And so long as everything is complete for them, they would push this through for final review to Albany. Again, as of now, as of this week, I know that they're behind 6 to 7 weeks in reviews. So just an FYI, usually they approve, their approvals are usually dated the 1st of the month. So the way I look at this is if we receive something before the 15th of the month, let's say we would have received something by July 15th, we may ask for August 1st, but it's very possible it could be September 1st. Just those are kind of how the dates and logistics there work. Transfer budgets are considered full budget amendments. So they of course go to the local liaisons at DDRO, but that has to go to Albany for final review and approval. And startup budgets, my understanding, are reviewed quicker now because they are reviewed more at the, you know, local liaison level as compared to before. So that might be a little, you know, quicker there. And once all those elements are complete, like I said, and if approved by them, you know, this is like the easy breezy process, but it should all of that be smooth that way. We'll receive an approval. It may take us a couple of days to just import things, because that's another important part. When we receive an approved budget, we import it into the portal Ibero system we use. I'll go into that a little bit. We set up payees, you know, if you are the one that will receive reimbursements, if you have providers that are direct pay, we work as much as possible in setting all those things up beforehand. If your employees have been, if there are employees and they've already been cleared on the days to come to link them, and everybody that needs to be linked into the system, we will be working on setting you up on the system to ensure you can access it. So it's a little bit of a back-end administrative stuff to do. But once we do that, we will issue what's called a launch email. And in that launch email, which would be, it's going to be very thorough, kind of like those self-hire emails. You know, we're going to ask you for information as it relates to, you know, signing you up for the portal. We're going to ask you for dates to schedule that virtual launch meeting and whatnot, including the care manager, by the way. The care manager is a very important piece, as you'll see, in obtaining all of the documentation and participating and getting everything launched. Does that make sense so far? I know that we can go back to the PowerPoint, Linda, if you don't mind. I know I covered a lot there. So yeah, so that's the launch meeting, and I think we'll walk you through our CFS webpage just so you can see a lot of what we do and what we use. So again, we do use Ibero. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with Ibero, but it is the portal that we utilize at all the FI, brokerage, family, and staff levels. So everyone at every level of the budget would be accessing Ibero to, you know, input services. So if it's your self-hired staff, they're going to clock in, clock out, enter services through this portal. You will also access this portal on your end to submit requests for reimbursements and approve your staff's time cards, as well as your broker's invoices monthly. We on the FI end, of course, utilize this to approve all of your requests, review and approve all of your requests. And of course, brokers also access this very same portal to do their part of their work. So it is a fully electronic platform. I will say that the platform looks different across, you know, the different providers. So for us, our dashboard, of course, looks different than yours. Yours looks different than your brokers. So because we're still in a remote setting, if there's any setbacks, you know, you couldn't log in or your staff couldn't clock in, those things are perfectly common and fine. We just depend on you to screenshot what your setbacks are so that we can walk you through. And if for some reason we can't walk you through, troubleshoot. So it's a pretty sophisticated platform. Other methods of communication, of course, we're big on email, cell phones, you know, text, phone calls, whatever works for you. We also do monthly newsletters. So at least once a month, we try and do a recap of, you know, resources. If we have any shared by other families or brokers, we love to share that. We have, of course, there are lists of staff and teams, other announcements that we need to make. Sometimes we may have a resume or two floating around for employees looking for more hours. And that kind of stuff is what's captured on the newsletters. We also do monthly, I would say, twice, maybe a month, family meetings. So in this very same way, we will host a meeting. Those are conducted by Linda on various topics each month. You know, from compliance to Medicaid to, you know, housing. We'll try to tackle that on one of these days, but we do have those family meetings, and all those sessions are recorded. If they can't be located on our webpage, when you have access to your Ibero portal, there is a secure platform in there for you to access all of our recorded videos and templates that we use here.
And I'll put that in the chat as well, so you guys can have access to that. For those of you that are in the startup phase, we did a good session on, startup approved, what next? Because this can be very overwhelming. What we're reviewing with you today, probably if you're transferring, makes more sense. But if you're just brand new to self-direction, you haven't even been approved for startup just yet, this is overwhelming. So we did a whole session on what to expect once startup has been approved. So I'll share that video library plus a whole bunch of other different workshops that we've done that you can review, at your leisure.
Yes. Yes, and right, and that's our webpage there. If you were to go to the SDS tab and SDS services, you can of course see who our board of directors are. And in our SDS services, there's a bunch of information there too. So, but feel free to click through and navigate some of these things. But as you start to connect with your direct FI manager and broker, we can, you will see that, don't drive yourself crazy and learning all this stuff now, but you'll see that if down the line you say, hey, I'm looking to enroll my loved one in a community class, we have pre-approvals for that. So we do, again, the beauty of all this is that we keep it electronic so as to not inconvenience anyone, and just make it, streamlined and simple. But we do have, justification forms for various areas of the budget. The content of these justification forms mimic the rules and policies set forth by OPWDD. So we just put that in a justification form for you. It's completely electronic. So once these things are signed off on, we receive it, we review it. We do have an advisory committee. So if it's something out of the norm, we try our very best to come back to our advisory committee and review things from all angles and perspectives before making decisions. And our advisory committee, by the way, is composed of parent brokers, self-advocate, myself and Linda. So, we try our best to keep that, very unique and diverse, in that everyone from different perspectives has input on how we operate and the policies that we have in place. I can't think of anything else. Linda, did I?
Just while we're on our website. So, some of the things that we try to do, as Jennifer mentioned, we do the family meetings. We want to help provide education and support to you on various topics. We're always looking for suggestions on things that you'd like to learn more about. So we want your feedback. She mentioned the advisory committee. So if you are looking to get more involved, we have an advisory committee. The Center for Family Support is our parent company. For example, I work for the Center for Family Support. All of our HR administrative team, our CEO, CFO works for Center for Family Support, but Jennifer and the self-direction team work for CFS self-directed supports. So it's a separate entity, but our parent company has an overall board, and our CFS self-directed supports has a board of directors, and we're always looking to expand the board. So if you're interested in being involved in any way, just please reach out. We'll share our contact information in a second. And also what we try to do is we have, with the pandemic, one of the benefits that we've learned is, how to use Zoom and how to connect with people. So we have a variety of virtual supports that, different, and these are all free. So, with self-direction, oftentimes you're paying for things, but we offer a bunch of free programs that any of the individuals can participate in. So if you're on our website and you go to news and events, you'll be able to see the calendar of what's going on. Again, we try to, offer support. So we have self-advocacy groups that meet. We have a movie night. We have a wonderful, wonderful art class on Saturday mornings. It's a small group and they really, have such bonded. We have a DBT group, a drama club. I'm trying to look for the one that I do. Okay, so every other Friday, yes. I host a bingo that I'm proud of. I host bingo, I bring jokes. And again, it's a wonderful group. It's a way for us to connect. We've had parents, individuals we're supporting, staff, children of staff, siblings of individuals we supported, everybody coming to bingo, and we give a $25 prize, Amazon gift card. So, you're more than welcome to join even now. So you would just go to news and events on our website, and there's a bunch of information. And of course, just want to plug, we're always looking for ways to fundraise. And, we just recently had a golf outing. We'll probably have an annual appeal. So any ways you're looking to help support the organization, we welcome. I'm trying to think if there's, we want to try to be responsive to the individuals and families. We also want to be responsive to the brokers. So we really try to be selective in the brokers that join our organization as consulting brokers. And we want to make sure they have a level of commitment, because if you're satisfied with your broker as your technical expert, then you're probably going to have a good experience in the program. And so we do offer broker meetings, and we try to really support them in any way that we can. So I think that's all. I'll share our contact information, and I'll stop recording so that if you'd like to ask a question, and we'll be here to answer any specific questions you might have.
Thanks, Linda. And then before we move on to other questions, I know there's one here about pre-approved programs. I'm sorry. What I meant is on our webpage, there is the justification forms. So here, what we do is when you either, sign up for a class or other, we would review this very much at the launch. But if there's any items that you are seeking reimbursement for, most of those items require that justification form completion for our review and approval. So as long as you have that approval on file, then it's your green light to submit for reimbursements, be it to you or to your direct pay vendors. What we are doing, however, is we are, slowly but surely working on developing a vendor list of vendors we already work with. So at some point when we finalize that, of course, we will, be sure to share.
Yeah, can I just add to that? So I think sometimes parents in some of the groups that I see, like the online groups, they see like pre-approved classes. So what you have to keep in mind is there's two things. There's never going to be a list of pre-approved classes, meaning the class is approved for you or your son or daughter. And we have to make sure, which is why we have that form, that the outcome is related, what's, is it in the life plan? What goals are they working on? So it's, somebody else might be getting that class, but maybe it doesn't quite yet fit in for your son or daughter. So there's not a pre-approved list of classes. Now, there are a list of direct pay vendors. So that's different. So if you get pre-approved for a class, yoga class, and the vendor has agreed to be set up with us as a vendor, then we would pay the vendor directly. And so I know sometimes that's a concern for families because they say, I don't have the money to be laying out all the time. So a direct pay vendor is ideal in that respect. And we will, if a vendor is interested in becoming a direct pay with us, we will set them up. They will fill out a policy so that they understand what the program entails. And you would see them on the drop down, you'd put your invoice in and they would get paid directly. So I think that's where there's a little bit of confusion sometimes. And again, the justification form, sometimes parents say, why do I have to do this? What we try to do is we want to ensure compliance from the beginning so that we don't have to think about it again, right? So if this class meets all of these elements and your broker and you were working on it while you're completing the form, you say, okay, look, it looks good. It meets all the elements, or maybe it doesn't. And that stops, you from signing up, right? So you're filling out the form. It's asking specific questions. We have it attached to the invoice in the file. So 5 years from now, if an auditor requests it, we have everything together, the invoice, what we've billed, the justification form, everything is good to go. Okay, the pre-approval, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a question about at which point in the transfer process can you seek the pre-approvals? Honestly, at any point, if we don't have this person in our files yet, what we do is we just try to leave it in our cloud system and we'll move it to the portal when this person is approved with us. But we sometimes encourage you to do this even before transferring, just to ensure it's something we can cover and reimburse for you.
Yeah, and typically if like I had one this morning, a person submitted a form and I had to, you know, the way Adobe Sign works, it says like decline to sign. So, you know, maybe that's a little harsh in the language that they use, but I would decline to sign, but I would put in there, hi, you know, I'm just, you know, please clarify, you know, attach a flyer, clarify this question. So we try not to just say no, like we're going to engage in a discussion about if we are going to not approve something, a form right away, we'll provide you the reasons why and see if maybe it just needs to be further clarified.
I have to piggyback off of that a little bit because I review hundreds and hundreds of invoices a month. So for those familiar with Evero, or if you do transition to us and utilize Evero, I also don't care for their language in that if an invoice has to be pushed back, as I call it, they call it rejected. And I know that that sometimes creates confusion in families because it doesn't mean that it's a hard no. We just reject it. We are able to type specific notes. I try my very best to tell you exactly what to do so I could push it through. So it's not a final rejection, and there's very specific notes on how to edit your invoices to meet the requirements. But I tell you that because, you know, oftentimes for the newer families, as you're getting acquainted, some things may be rejected. Don't worry, you'll work with me. And if I'm not contacting you directly, it's because, you know, there's many, many invoices. Just read the notes to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of other questions that you might have, especially if you're transferring. If you're new, what I'm going to say to you is don't worry. Just don't worry. This is a lot of information we're throwing at you. You'll get there. You'll be okay. We're going to work with you. Your broker is going to hold your hand and be your technical expert. We'll set you up properly. We'll answer any questions. You know, I would recommend watching the videos to just kind of learn some information as you're going through the startup phase. If you're transferring over to us, maybe something that might be different is, I don't know if other providers do this, but we do not prepay any vendors. So a good example would be if you sign up for a membership, let's say a Zoom membership, and they require you to pay upfront. So what we would say is just prorate it over the course of the year. And at the end of each month, you're going to submit 1/12 of the total of that membership cost. That's how we would tackle that. Or you could submit it at the end of the quarter for 3 months or 6 months or the year, whatever makes more sense to you. We just are not able to do a prepayment arrangement. There's a question about since transferring, yeah. And the budget goes to Albany, does that change the restart? No. So your budget year will always stay your budget year. And if you're transferring, actually what we will be requesting from the prior FI is the last expenditure report. We then take that last expenditure report, update it into Evero so that the tracking is there for you to follow.
Yes, very good question. Very good question. I know there's always some confusion there. It doesn't reset. It just continues with what's already been expensed. And you know, we encourage you that for a transfer, when we get that last expenditure report from the FI, that you ensure that you're in agreement with what was posted was spent, because that's the same numbers we'll plug into this new portal. And then to backtrack to some of the other questions, if we are switching over from another agency, proactive with staff. I know that Linda dropped in the flow process, but we, you know, just giving them the heads up that this is happening, to check their emails. If there's something they're stuck on, to please reply all and let us know. Sorry about that. And that's the way to be on top of it.
Okay, let me take this other question. So for everybody on the client self-directed staff, classes, instructors, social groups, etc., needs to be approved on a justification form. Okay, go ahead.
You don't have to come.
Just 10 minutes more. I have.
Okay.
To answer that question, so the self-directed staff are going through the employment process. That's all they need to be doing to get set up as, because we are the employer of record, you're the managing employer, so they have to be set up as an employee to get paid. For anything, any of the goods and services, most of them, unless they're pretty self-explanatory, like if you've got a utility bill, a phone bill, we don't need a justification form for that. But if it's a community class, yes, we would need it. And it's not every time. It's just a one-time justification form per class subject. So you would do that at the beginning. And then if you're like, so if you have right now yoga, you've got a dance class, you would do those 2 justification forms. And then maybe 6 months from now, you say, oh, I'm really interested in karate. You would do it then. And your broker is the one that can help you to do that. We do try here at CFS, and I don't know if this is different from other agencies. We try to really, and I think the brokers like this too, it's billable time for them, and they're involved in ensuring things are happening correctly. So we do encourage that you work with the broker to fill those forms out. You don't have to do that necessarily yourself. The other question is, if we're switching over, is there a way we can be proactive for our staff, like where they can fingerprint and some other things they may need? I think Jennifer answered this maybe, but download that chart that I shared in the chat on the process. What a good way to be proactive is make sure they have all their forms of ID that are accurate, valid rather, with the, that they're not expired. Have them start to get those references, the 1 professional and 2 personal. If they start to get those things together, by the time they need to upload it, it'll be done. And to just think about where basically when they fill out the forms at that time, they're going to say on the form, the where and when they're available, and they're scheduled based on that. So I think the best thing to be proactive is to share that chart, maybe start to have them get their references, because that involves other people. Since transferring and budget goes to Albany, does that change? I think we answered that. I believe you mentioned there's another Zoom for people who are new to the process. I'm gonna let Jennifer, or if you guys have any other questions, and I'm gonna pop in the video library document where you can access all the recorded videos, and one of them is about the startup and what to expect next.
Right. Any other questions? Anybody? You're welcome. And let me just type my cell in here. I know sometimes if you call that 51, if you call our office number, they are forwarded to our cell phones, but if anyone wants to reach me quicker, that's my cell there.
Jen, do you have everybody's emails? Because of course, when I'm trying to find something.
I don't. It would be
Okay,
be
I'll
helpful
find
if
it.
everyone shared it. I have, the way it works is we shared this to our contracted brokers that are transitioning families, be it startup or transfer.
Oh,
But
I have it.
it would be helpful if so we will share this recording to whomever parents we have that registered, or the broker. But if you wanted to, here's my email too. If you wanted to email me your information, I'll be sure to include you on that recorded session and materials when we send it.
Okay, and I found it. I'm going to drop it in a second. Does anybody have any questions, or anything you want to say, or feel free?
How do we get to see the previous Zoom meetings?
Okay, I just dropped into the chat a copy of our video library. So we have everything on YouTube, but it's with a link only. It's private with a link. So the document I dropped in has all of the links. I'm going to just share it with you on the screen in a second so you could see what it looks like. I need to spend some time making this more visually appealing, but okay. So if you see here, there's a variety of different topics that we've done. Home modifications, housing subsidy. These housing ones need to be updated because there's been some changes. This is a good one I suggest for folks that are new, strategies for hiring staff. That was a good session. Alternatives to guardianship. What does EVV, what does electronic visit verification mean? This was one we did in 2021 about the vaccine, just vaccine education, which I'm sure you're already inundated with. And then I did ones that break it down, and these can be helpful for folks that are new. On this one does a deep dive into OTPS, the other than personnel services section of the budget. This one does a deep dive into IDGS, individual directed goods and services. So we go through each category and discuss what the requirements are. This is how to review the individual and family portal in eViro. So this is like an hour-long one, but this one goes through all things eViro. Jennifer goes through all of the different things that you need to do, from approving staff to entering invoices. That's all in here. This is shared living. This talks about living caregiver and paid neighbor. And then we had a really nice session on the transition from school to adulthood. I thought this was a really, this was very good. Core competencies. These are the competencies that the direct support staff, your self-hired staff, need to display. If you are considering hiring a family member, we do require that you guys have a meeting to discuss this, because, you know, as you can imagine, there can be some issues with hiring a family member that you want to resolve before you do that. You are able to hire a family member who doesn't live in the home with the individual. However, we want to make sure that you have a conversation to discuss like what happens when things go wrong. And these were some that were done by other organizations that I shared, but this is the one, this number 19. And you know what, I will drop this link. I don't think I can, but this number 19 is one for if you're approved for startup, now what? This is a good way for you to know, like, let's say you approve for startup, what's going to be happening over the 6 to 9 months before that budget is developed and plan is developed. This is the staff hire process. So we kind of went over that with you today, but this is a more deep dive. Transportation staff activity fees. And then this one, utilizing the SD budget post-launch. So we did approve for startup, and then number 22, once that budget has been approved, now what can you expect? Okay, this is our FI. This is very similar. We'll probably replace this one with what we're doing today. And then this self-hired ComHab, we go through the staff action plan, how the staff documents services, the monthly note. Number 25, care manager and broker, how can they help you? So this is ways that you can maximize the use of these two positions, the care manager and the broker. Medicaid, I recommend highly, if you are a parent of a school-age child, that you watch this one so that you know what you need to do to ensure that Medicaid stays active. We also talk about, once the child turns 18 and is SSI eligible, how that changes Medicaid. And compliance, what families and individuals need to know. So I'm recommending all of these, but it's a lot. So maybe you just tackle a few that you think would be most helpful. And then we have some trainings that we've done for brokers and for self-hired staff down at the bottom.
Yeah, and once onboarded with us and for the launch, we include some of these links, especially the mobile app training for staff, the how to use the portal for you guys. So we include some of these links on there just automatically anyway. And I saw a question about the video links. I'll be sharing the video library, the clearance flow chart, the PowerPoint, and this recording all together. I have all of your emails for those of you that have shared it on the chat. So thank you. I have them. I will be sure to include you on that.
Yeah. And for Thomas, to answer your question, absolutely. We shared the video library with you here. I put it in there. You feel free to watch any of the videos and fill out justification forms if you're looking to come with us. Absolutely. You're more than welcome. And you can attend bingo. I would love to have you guys at bingo. We could get to know you better.
Yes, definitely.
So again,
go ahead.
How do we access all those videos?
I'm gonna email them to you. I'm gonna email them. I have your emails. I'm jotting them down as you type them in.
I did put it in the chat, Sal. I don't know if you're able to see it. Did you see that?
Not yet. I'm, my
Scroll
head's
up a little bit.
spinning. But I'm going to put my email address down.
Okay, don't worry about it. If you don't see it in the chat,
okay.
Don't worry
I'll
about it.
email those, and remember, as you get all of these things from me along the way, you and/or your brokers, by all means, feel free, ask me any question, text or email is much quicker by me and text message. But of course, if I miss your call, I'll definitely call you back ASAP.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions, comments, concerns? All right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We look forward to getting to know you and your family in time. If you do just decide to come to join the CFS family, and like Jen said, we're here if you have any questions. So feel free to reach out. We hope you guys enjoy this day and keep cool. Stay hydrated.
Linda, don't end for me. I'm just writing down the emails.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, you feel free to leave the meeting or hang out while we write down the emails.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Barack.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Barack.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Nice. I got everybody's emails and more.
Okay, good. Okay. And yeah, I think I have the chat. If you misspell, I'll send that to you too. The
Oh, you
chat
can do
thread.
that? You can,
Yeah.
you know I'm not versed on these, so I could get the chat?
Yeah, you can get the chat.
my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry.
Well, that's that. No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, so I'll make sure I grab everyone from the chat. So I think we're good. Thank you, the rest of you that are still on.